Hey friends, welcome back to Crusty Cranks TV. If you like using soft plastics as much as we do, and you want to get into soft plastics, well, what about the stone molds you buy on Amazon for like 25-30 bucks? Can you make decent baits off of those? Well, let's go into the bait room and find out. Okay, about a year ago, I decided I wanted to start making soft plastics and started wanting to learn how to do the process and everything. So I thought, well, I'm going to start cheap, and sometimes cheap's not always better. But anyway, these are stone molds, and most of these came from Amazon. You can purchase them on Amazon. But I want to talk about the stone molds today, because can you make good baits with stone molds and plastic molds? You can, but I'm going to talk to you about what I went through and some of the trials and tribulations of plastic baits, rubber baits, and using stone molds. Alright, so what you're seeing in front of you is all the stone molds that I've purchased over the last year, and I started off with just a kit, and that was the hog chasing kit from a company called Fusion X. Alright, and I apologize for the air conditioning running. It's 95 degrees here in Ohio, and yeah, so the thing's been running all day. And this is in our epoxy room. Brought you guys in here before when I do epoxy, but it's also now my soft plastics room, so I do soft plastics in here too. So this video ain't going to be about making soft plastics. It's going to be mostly about the stone molds, what I've found out and what I've learned. We'll probably shoot a few of them just to show you the process that I do. I've got some June bug mixed up, so we'll probably shoot a few of these just so you can see that you can make baits, good baits, decent baits with stone molds. Since getting into the hobby of, I call it a hobby, but it's actually a business too, but since getting into it, I found out that stone molds are not good if you're planning on making baits for production. So since then, I've purchased a bunch of different aluminum molds, and we'll talk about those in different videos, and we'll do reviews and do some different color mixing, and we'll do all kinds of soft plastic videos as well. So if if you're looking for just soft plastic videos, I'll have all these in a playlist, a separate playlist called Soft Plastics, so you can find all my soft plastic videos in that playlist. But I got to make a long story short, I wanted to get into soft plastics, but I really wanted to learn how to do it all first before I started spending a bunch of money. So right off the bat, you can plan on spending a bunch of money, especially if you're planning on doing these production-wise to sell baits. I had customers that bought my crankbaits and was like, do you make soft plastics? And at the time I said no, because I was still learning the whole process. But since then, I've pretty much developed my techniques enough that I think I can sell some pretty good baits, and I have sold baits, rubber baits. But we'll get into all the business side of it in future videos on soft plastics. But today I just wanted to go over these stone molds, because they are cheap and they're available on Amazon, and there's some good ones and some bad ones. So I'm going to kind of go through the ones I got, and I don't know, I might put links to them in the description. If you're interested in that, just let me know in the comments. And but you can go on Amazon and search these, and you can find pretty much all these. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first set I bought, let me get all these out of the way and show you what came together. It's called the Hog Chasing Kit. All right, and in that kit you get these 5 molds. Okay, and they call them stone molds, but they're some kind of acrylic plastic. They're pretty hard. Haven't dropped any yet, so I don't know what would happen if I drop them. I mean, I can tell on a couple of them by what they're made of what would happen. They probably wouldn't hurt them too much. But with this is the Fusion X Hog Chasing Kit, and it runs $110 plus shipping. And you get 5 molds. These 5 molds, you get this bug crawl type creature bait, you get a frog, you get a ribbon tail worm, you get a swim tail, paddle tail shad, and you get a 6-inch Cinco worm or stick worm, whatever you want to call it. Now, I didn't have one. This is a 5-inch, but the 6-inch one is okay. So I'm not knocking any of these companies, but I am going to show you, you know, since this is not sponsored, they didn't give me these, I'm going to give you a fair, honest opinion on my use of them and why you may or may not want to buy these specific molds. Okay, in that pack you also get these cubes of different colors. There's 9, I believe there's 9 of them, and there's a mystery color. So let's talk about these molds from Fusion X. All right, first off, these molds I had a lot of problems with, so I was really kind of just learning how to make rubber baits, so I didn't really blame it on the mold. I more or less thought it was me and my technique and getting the heat temperatures right and the settings right and all that stuff. But the little cubes that they give you, you just basically have to heat them up to like 350 degrees above, and they melt down, and you know, you make some baits. Now, you can't get a lot of baits out of those cubes, but like I said, if you're just making these for yourself and you want to get started into soft plastics, I'm gonna say just get you a gallon of soft plastics from Dead On Plastics, or you could get Fusion X. Their plastic was pretty good. I got 3 different ones. I got the soft blend. I got a pint of the soft blend, and I got a pint of the medium, and I got a pint of the firm. Because once I burnt through those, it was pretty much like, okay, I got to have more plastic. So, you know, then starts the beginning of buying all your colors and all your glitters and all your pearlescence and all that. And that's where it really comes into expenses, is getting everything. But once you get everything, it's not bad. If you're doing this for business purposes, I suggest go ahead and start off with a 5-gallon bucket of Dead On Plastics. I bought the worm blend. It's like $109. With shipping, it ended up being to my place in Ohio, ended up being like $141 for a 5-gallon bucket. But I've tried 3 or 4 different brands of Plastisol, Fusion X. I've tried Dead On. I've tried Bait Plastics. I've tried there was another company, I can't recall the name of it at the moment, but what I found was the Dead On Plastics was the best, and it was the easiest, and it worked reliable. It was reliable as long as you mix it up real good, which is another thing. Always shake up your plastic, mix it up, whatever, and then we'll talk about bubbles and doing all that stuff, air bubbles and all that stuff in later videos. So my experience with these were kind of rough. It took a while to get a good bait out of here. And once I bought other molds, I found out that what the problem was this big hole in the end. Let me find one that I haven't adjusted or fixed. Right here, okay? You have this big, here's your sprue where you shoot it in, but then at the end you have this big thing right here. For some reason, I just didn't like that because it let a lot of the plastic leak out, which number one was a danger because you're dealing with freaking hot plastic, and it leaks out all over the place. So I wasn't a big fan of this, and it was hard to get a good solid piece. So it took a lot of practice to get a bait and get the right temperature and all that stuff. The one thing I did was I went back and modified them a little bit, and I closed this all up with baking soda and super glue, and it definitely helped out a lot. It filled all this in so the plastic didn't run out as fast, and allowed me to get nice full baits out of it. So I think it's really just a design flaw, because when you look at another one of these other molds over here, you'll see it has a little air line right here, that lets the air leak into here, and then a little bit of excess plastisol will go into there. So I really like that design better, and these would be much better molds, I believe, if they had that design. But I don't know what the purpose of the big hole was. Obviously to let air leak out, but you really have to get your plastic to the right perfect consistency and heat temperature for it to shoot a good bait. So I struggled with it a lot, and I thought that, you know, maybe I should try some different molds. Maybe it's the mold after a while when I could only get, like, every 5 tries I'd get one good bait, and it was really bugging me. So I went on next and bought some of these other baits. Now this one is from a company called Smediox, and these are on Amazon. This was the 6-inch, or this was the 5-inch Cinco, and here you can see a little bit of excess plastic right here where it's, when I shot one, that's where it ended up. These make really nice baits. The thing you have to remember with stone molds is you can't shoot these things dry. You have to have some worm oil, okay? And these companies, Smediox, sends you the little tiny bottle of worm oil with the molds. So in a production standpoint, if you get a bunch of these, like I bought 3 of them because I knew I wanted to make some worms, so I bought 3 of them, and as you notice, I numbered the 3s, numbered the parts, so when I took them all apart I can know which one goes with what. So I do 3 of these, and the 5-inch worm I was real happy with. It's really got some decent detail to it, almost like a aluminum mold. The stone molds have a little bit more flashing if you don't get them tight. So I purchased some clamps from Harbor Freight. These were the cheapest clamps, cheaper than other brands of clamps, but these work really good. So you just size it up. You put 2 clamps on here and clamp it down, and it's plenty tight enough. So we'll shoot a couple of these when we get to it. I don't want to make this video too long, and I'll probably go into more detail on specific molds, but getting back to Fusion X. Okay, so with that hog chasing kit comes the injector, and this is a 4-ounce injector, and I think this was part of my problem when I was learning. It's just hard to use. It takes a lot of time. First you got to unscrew this top, and the threads on it are not that great. They're kind of hard to get lined back up, and as you can see, it doesn't want to come off sometimes. So I really wasn't too happy with this injector. You're supposed to take this out, put a little, I don't know where the plug end is, but there's a little plug that goes on this end, and then you pour your hot plastic in there. Then you put this back in, which is a pain in the ass to get back in when you're dealing with something hot and plastic, and even though you got gloves on. And then to try to get this thing started back up again, to get it lined up so it screws on correctly. And if you don't get it on there correctly, it's going to squirt glue, plastisol out of there. Not glue, plastisol. So really, I'm going to advise against this injector. I even tried putting it down in the cup and pulling it up and just, you know, sucking it in. It's just really an uncomfortable injector to use, and just really doesn't work that good. That I have had troubles with it. That don't mean you will, but there's a lot better injectors out there than this one. So forget that injector. I bought a 6-ounce dual injector kit. This was $195, but if you're thinking about doing 2 color worms and laminates, then this is probably the way to go. Just go ahead and bite the bullet and buy this. It's $195. You get 2 injectors and the dual injection kit. All right, comes all together. Like I said, it was like $195. I haven't even used the dual yet because I've just been playing around with just single colors. But this injector is really decent. It's 6 ounce, so it holds 6 ounces of plastic as well as 4 ounces of plastic. You're just going to end up running out of plastic before you fill all your molds anyway. So I'm actually going to get a bigger one too for more production runs on aluminum molds. But this is a good starter kit if you're serious about this. If you're not, just buy you a single one. The thing I like about this is you just push this on there and you suck it up, and I'll demonstrate one here in a minute. But these are decent. I've used this one for a lot of rubber worms, a lot of rubber baits so far. So yeah, this is a good one. The thing you do got to be careful with is when you're pushing the plastic back into the cup, is this thing don't have a locking pin. So you're gonna have to don't push it all the way off, because it'll fall in your cup of plastic. I wish this had a little locking pin where you could put it in and twist it and lock it in place, but it don't. I know there's other ones out there on bass tackle. Probably when I get a bigger injector, I'm probably going to go with one that's got the locking pins. But for starting out, this is about $55, I think, for one. Which is why I went on and bought the dual, because I would have 2 injectors, and I would have the ability to do 2 color baits. Okay, so yeah, this is probably a good choice for you starting out. I would say just go ahead and get this. If you want to get these molds, just buy these molds individual. Most of these molds are around $25-30. And if you plan on doing a bunch of them, at least maybe try 2, get you 2 of them. Like with this curly tail that we're gonna shoot, I got 2 of them just so I could do 2 at a time. And if you want a pack of baits, you know, I mean, if you're just doing this for yourself to have some rubber baits, get 2 or 3 of them, and with one of these you can fill up quite a few molds with them. So I'm gonna clamp up some molds heat up some of this June bug, and we're gonna shoot a few of them. All right, so I'll bring you back when I got everything clamped up. Okay, I got these clamped up, and I wanted to show you real quick. When you use these stone molds, you're gonna need a couple things. You're gonna need a brush and a little bit of worm oil. And I got my worm oil from Barlow's Tackle, so they got some worm oil there. But you want to brush these molds down with some worm oil, and you'll get a couple pulls out of them. And always make sure your air slots are emptied out once you made a bait. But just coat that baby down with some worm oil, and it does make them a little messy. But if you don't use the worm oil, you're gonna get dents, and you're gonna get baits that just don't come out right sometimes, or they'll be real hard and dry. Also use clips on like these. I can clamp these in. Got these at Harbor Freight as well. So I already oiled all those. I got my plastic here. Obviously, if you want to do this, you're gonna need gloves. Get you some heat-resistant gloves. I'm just not going to use them for the purpose of this video, just so you can see a little better. Got my gloves getting in the way, but you want to heat your plastic up, and we'll do more videos on colors and mixing colors and working with plastics. This was pretty much just to show you that you can make some decent baits on these stick molds, or on these stone molds, I'm sorry. So get your plastic, got your plastic heated up to above 350 above, and we'll talk about all the nuances of melting plastic and doing that kind of thing. Bubbles, color mixing, splitters, pearlescence. We'll do all that stuff in future videos. Alright, so my plastic's hot. I'm just going to take my injector, stick it down in there, and I'm going to pull it up without sucking any air in there. Usually I pull it up till I feel the heat, and I know that's about enough for doing these molds here. Alright, and you can clamp multiple molds together too. So I push down, and I found out that you want to hold it for a few seconds. Hold it in there, lift it up, fill the sprue the rest of the way, because as plastic cools, it shrinks, and you want to have that sprue filled up. So when it does shrink, there's still plastic there. Alright. These are the stick worms, 5-inch stick worms. These are really decent molds. Smidiox. I believe they're Ukrainian. Most of these stone molds are made in the Ukraine, so some of these might be a little hard to get right now. I know some of them were out of stock. And if you want to do a bunch of different baits, just go ahead and get you a couple of each one and get started playing around with it. Get you a little gallon of plastic, a couple colors. I usually use Barlow's or MF, because they got most of the colors. Jan's Netcraft's got colors. If you use Jan's, they got colors there. Then just go back and fill them up. So you can see just with my one little 6-ounce, it wasn't even full all the way. I got the 2, 5, 6 baits out of it. When you push this back in, be careful that you don't push your plug out. Just set your injector down, let it cool until you get done with these. Alright, so we're going to let that cool. Now, the one thing I've found out about stone molds is you can take them apart a lot quicker than you can with an aluminum mold. They just seem to cool faster than aluminum mold. So yeah, that's the good thing about it. If you're trying to make them for production, I mean, there's just so many steps involved with oiling it and getting them clamped up and all that, that if you're doing production, just go ahead and go right to the aluminum molds. Get a couple of these if you just want to learn how to do plastics and make your own baits. They're perfect for making your own baits. I'll show you in my next one how I slam a bunch of them together and do them all at once. All right, kind of like this little scenario right here. So definitely you're going to need a microwave. And I want to shout out to Chris Jones, World's Worst Fishing, because he's been my go-to guy for learning how to do soft plastics. He's got a lot of good videos on there, so if you haven't checked out his channel, go check it out. World's Worst Fishing. He's the king of soft plastics. That's who I pretty much learned from, watching his videos. So I'm just showing you my experiences with them and what you can produce with stone molds. All right, so these are about ready. Now I'm going to loosen my clamp. I just loosen it up just enough, slide it off so I can put it back together real quick. I kind of married some other ones together. So here's the stick worm. Still a little hot yet, but nice little stick worm. Then I got a little pair of scissors. See where my scissors are. And just snip that off. Throw it back in the cup and you can remelt it. Now if you notice, I'm using a piece of glass, and make sure if you use a piece of glass that it's tempered glass for the heat, because if you just use a regular piece of glass and you set that hot Pyrex cup down on there, it's probably going to crack from the heat. It's a nice looking June bug. And don't get me wrong, you could buy 6, 8 of these molds and make a pack of baits. I think this one actually comes in a three worms in a mold. But the time you're going to spend on doing all that, you might as well just buy your aluminum mold. I know they're a lot more expensive, but if you're doing it for making baits for production, you know, go with aluminum, just because of the fact that you don't have to oil them, you don't have to use clamps. Most of them just have wing nuts to hold them together. All right, but so there we got 3 nice 5-inch Senkos. This one's called a beaver. It's a creature bait. And I do have more of these molds. I just didn't want to bring them all up on the table. So these are just a few of the styles that I have. All right, this curly tail is a really good one. This thing, again, Smediox, shoots a good mold almost every time, as long as you put a little oil in it. Now you can see I got a little flashing on there, but not bad. Not bad for a cheap mold. I think I paid 23 bucks for one of them. Save your sprues, throw them back in the cup, remelt them again. little bit of flashing. And it really, because those clamps, you really need these kind of clamps to really get them good and tight. I've only got one set because I mostly use aluminum molds now, so I didn't feel the need to go out and buy a bunch of clamps. Alright, so you can see it's still got some oil on it, so I can get another pull or two off of that before it's all dried up. Alright, let me move these out of the way. I'll clamp up the other ones and show you. Okay, so what I do when I use a bunch of these little molds is I put all the sprues, injection sprues, down, and I line them all up because they're all different heights. Then I squeeze them all together, and then I'll turn them over, and I'll take this clamp right here and push it down and kind of create a leg with it. Alright, and when I'm about ready to inject, first off, get the pump your ejector a couple times, and then suck up your plastic. Try not to get any air bubbles, and then just go right down the line. The reason you want to line them up like that is so it all stays together. You can just go right across the tops. Hopefully I got enough plastic to shoot all these. This was just some leftovers. Sorry, my arm was probably in the way. This is just some leftovers from a order. Some of these little ones don't take much plastic at all. And I'll just go right down the line, shoot them all. Always hold it for a second or two, and go back down the line and just fill your sprue back up the rest of the way. Push your leftover plastic in the cup. If I didn't mention it, you're going to need some Pyrex cups. Or off-brand Pyrex. The other thing you don't see on camera here is that I have a little fan. It's just a little USB fan that I bought on Amazon. It's really cheap, and it just blows the fumes and smoke out of my face. So when you're working with this stuff, you don't want to be breathing that hot plastic. So have your little fan that kind of blows off the smoke and blows it, out of your face. We're going to give these a second to cool. Let your injector cool until you get all your baits done, and it's so much easier to clean out. The nice thing about the plastic is anything that spills on the plastic, because I can keep anything that spills on the glass, the plastic that spills on the glass, I can just pick it up. I can just roll it off of there and reuse it. You're going to need some of these butter knives too. Pack them at Walmart. The great stir sticks. Give them a few minutes to cool. But yeah, I mean, if you're making your own soft plastics for fishing, I don't see anything wrong with this. Just to make your own baits, because you're not in any kind of time crunch to fill an order or anything. These work out fine. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video, just to show you that you can make some decent baits out of this, off these little cheap stone molds. I've been fishing with a bunch of these. I'll show you the one that I really like. Two of them that I really like. Well, one was that curly tail. I really like the curly tail. That thing, we've been catching a bunch of smallmouths with that thing. Alright, loosen your clamps, go down the line, pop your baits out. There's a nice little crawl. Now the crawl, I had to do a little modification to at the top. because the injection hole was too small. This little hole right here was too small. I had to grind it out some with my Dremel. And once I did that, it pretty much started shooting pretty decent baits. Once in a while you get one. Here's a little robo worm. Another nice little Ned worm. Works good. Am I a fan of the stone molds? Not for production, but I do like the bait styles, and I do like to use them for myself and make them for myself. This little ringworm here is a hot worm. This thing is cool. The action it has. The seal gets a little flashing here, which is a bad thing about it, but sometimes it'll just come right off. But I think it's just the design of the bait, because I've clamped it down pretty tight before, and I think that's just where the air escapes each little rib, so you get a little bit of a flashing on it. They're not perfect. They're definitely not aluminum molds, but they're definitely usable. And if you are going to do them for production, then you might want to buy 6 or 8 of them. Because with the time it takes to oil everything and individually separate each one, clean them up. The nice thing is I can reuse that plastic. I can even keep these baits if they start getting torn up. I throw them in a bag, and I come back and I'll just remelt them and make another one. Here's a little fantail net or trailer. Nice little bait. There's a twin tail. And the last crawl. Oil makes your hands all slippery too. Okay, so there we are. Let me get them all together. Actually, I think I'll shoot these Fusion X ones. After it cools, you just push that out all the way, grab it, pull it out, throw it in the cup, throw all your sprues back in the cup, remelt them, and you can make a next bait. Let me get a couple of these Fusion X ones, and I'll show you how they work. Okay, so I got some These are 3 of the Fusion X ones. Okay, I don't know if I got enough plastic to do all of them. And I'd rather save mixing plastic for another video. But let's see what we got here. Alright, you'll see this one over here. You're going to see it start squirting out the bottom. Actually, it's probably going to make a liar out of me. That worries me that it probably didn't fill up. Okay, there you go. So you almost got to pause for a minute, let it cool, and then push it the rest of the way. And this one I got on the other side, so. You seen how easy it was that I shot those other ones. I'm gonna say that only maybe one of these turned out. I'll be surprised if they all turned out. Fusion X would redesign that hole at the bottom. I'd probably buy more of their molds, because they have some cool molds, but the detail just is not like what you get from the Smediox, or I think this other company was Best in J. There's a couple other companies on there that sell them, so just look them up on Amazon if you're interested in getting some of these, and you'll see what they got. Like I said, some of them are out of stock because of the what's going on over in Ukraine. So some of them might be not available. But I don't know, I haven't checked for a while. The nice thing about the glass is, look, I can just scrape up the loose plastic, throw it back in the cup, and it stays clean, as opposed to doing it on a countertop or a dirty workbench or something. At least with the glass, it stays clean. I can throw it back in there. Alright, let's see what these turned out like. Okay, see how it came out there? I closed that hole up a little bit to slow it down from coming out, which helped it fill better. There we go. And that made a world of difference. World of difference. There's a frog. Oh, nope. He didn't turn out. This one, same thing, I closed it up. I just couldn't shoot a full, just would not shoot a full solid bait. And when I filled that up, it made a world of difference. Okay, and that one, these are nice. That's got a hook slot in it. Small one, but it's still a hook slot. Let's see what this one looks like. Nope, it didn't finish. Oh, maybe it did. Nope, it didn't finish out either. See, almost, but it's just inconsistency with these molds. So it's your money if you want to try them. Like I said, until they redesign it, I probably won't buy any more of their molds. And if you guys are watching this from Fusion X, redesign this thing. All it needs is a little sprue or a little vent for the air to get out of there. You've seen the frog. It almost turned out. Could have been that I sucked a little air in there too. So anyway, that's the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. Hope you get started into making soft plastics. Stay tuned to the channel, and we're gonna start throwing up recipes. We're gonna start using different molds. We're gonna do some more. We'll use some more of these molds with different colors. So if you enjoyed, please subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified when we put up our next video, and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this and you picked up some good information. And always remember, stay crusty, my friends.